to address something that virtually nobody in Washington has the courage to talk about, but it's a big problem and it's going to crush us if we don't do something, and that's entitlement programs. In 1968, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and net interest on the national debt equaled 23% of the total federal budget. Fast forward to 2008, these same entitlements and other mandatory spending programs had grown to take up 62% of the federal budget. During that same time frame, defense spending went from 46% down to 21%. The largest category of fiscal exposure the federal budget faces are the growing unfunded promises for Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid benefits for current and for the future beneficiaries. And that doesn't take into consideration the health care bill that was just passed. Long term, these programs in their current forms are financially unsustainable. What would you do to change these growing expenditures and keep the program solvent while preventing them from overwhelming the federal budget?
Well, I think one of the things we have to look at are alternatives, and we've done it in limited ways with 401ks and things like that, but we could establish programs where people could opt to pay into their own system for their Social Security or Medicare benefits while they're working. People that earn more money could choose to invest in programs. Also, we could look at alternatives as we stay healthier longer and live longer. We can look at alternatives of raising the retirement age. We certainly need to look at, we can't continue to run these programs in the red. So we have to be able to start the discussion and work on the solutions, because certainly continuing to fund them with borrowed money is not the answer. People are living longer, people are staying active longer, people perhaps can work a little longer, maybe increasing the retirement age 1 or 2 years would certainly help, but also allowing people new forms of investment to be able to invest in their own care. And eventually, as we learn to do that, if our own system of investment is better than the government, then the burden on the government will be reduced. I believe that everything the private industry does, everything we do as citizens is better than anything the government can do.
Thank you. Karen.
First of all, the government should look at their own balance sheet the way you and I do when we don't have money for something. This year alone, they will spend $13 billion in earmarks. Isn't that a favorite word of all of ours? Earmarks. So they first need to consider their own wasteful spending. When they looked at this entitlement program, they didn't think far enough ahead. That's part of the problem with the government. They only look 5 years ahead whenever they budget something. They need to look long term. Because after me, I have children and grandchildren. And it's my concern that the debt continues to grow because they don't analyze far enough into the future. Another thing we could do to help make those programs more solvent is eliminate a lot of the wasteful government spending. I don't think many of you realize, but we have $123 billion we spend repeatedly on programs that have failed for 15 consecutive years or longer. Also, the tax dollars that we are using right now to create government jobs. That's the largest growing industry right now, is not small businesses. I can't create jobs. It's big businesses and the government jobs. You know what's gotten us out of these last 7 recessions? Has been the growth of small business. So if the government could start to look at all their wasteful spending, we would have money for Social Security and Medicare. And it's a shame because the elderly that I have met as I've gone around the community are scared to death. They have paid their entire lives into this system, and now it's about to fail them. They're scared to death. They don't know what to do. We have to come up with real solutions, and it has to start right in our government, right on our balance sheet. We have got to start to find ways to cut the wasteful spending and shrink government overall as a package. And we're going to Washington, and in our state alone, they're going to talk about increasing 3 more seats in our House of Florida. We have 27 seats. So now we're going to go to 30 seats. So every time we turn around, they're talking about growing government. So we have to look at the different ways to save money Entitlement programs that are added into the healthcare, shame on us. We're taking $500 billion from Medicare to expand Medicaid. That's not right. We promised those things to our seniors. That money needs to be there for them. Congress shouldn't have gotten a 3% raise last year while Social Security stood by and got nothing. Shame on us. Conservatives in Washington will say no to those kind of things, and as I'm your Congresswoman, I will guarantee you will get paid before I get paid.
Thank you. Robert.
I had the opportunity when I was at CPAC to spend a few days with the Heritage Foundation in D.C. And they took us through an hour and a half, and we in one room, and every hour and a half they had somebody else come through and talk about whatever their issue was. They were the think tank people in that issue. And we spent an hour and a half on Social Security and what to do to fix it. So I want to give credit where credit is due. I'm going to start by saying this. Social Security that they just announced a couple of weeks ago that it's bankrupt isn't. It's just that they don't have any money. Bear with me on it. The reason they don't have any cash is because they have a bunch of IOUs from the federal government that has been pilfering and pillaging that Social Security trust, which really isn't. It's pay as you go system. But as it was explained to me when I said, how can we revamp this system? And I went over my ideas. They said, listen, we've already done that for you. It's very simple. It's similar to what Donna says. We just simply start tranching up the retirement age, and it will be sustainable ad infinitum. What you're already paying out of your paychecks, Social Security will work. It can be solvent for two reasons. One, if the government stops stealing the money, and we simply make retirement age more reasonable. I'm not talking about Greece's age 52. I'm talking about the United States of America age closer to age 70. And that's what makes sense to keep Social Security alive. And let's talk about Medicare, Medicaid. These systems are going to be bankrupt by 2017, which affects my business because I'm in the grandma business. I take them to the doctors. The problem is it's a federal bureaucracy. And the state of Florida has already fixed it for us by dealing with people like me in my industry. What they've done is they said, listen, it costs us $5,000 a month to keep grandma in skilled nursing, but if they put them in assisted living, it's only $1,000 a month, so let's pay the assisted living guy $1,000 a month. So they put a bunch of money in there, and that's great for my industry because I'm subsidized for the very, very poor people that we take care of, so they get up to the basic rate. But more importantly, they had a federal bureaucracy manage it. And I got paid 6, 8, 10 weeks down the road after a bunch of paperwork, and then some of this squabble, some of that squabble. So they privatized it 2 years ago, and now it's called diversion. In fact, you can either get the old Medicaid or Medicaid waiver or get diversion. I got paid in 3 days and 20% more. What a concept. If we simply privatize Medicare, it can become solvent as well. It's what we need to do is take back our government. We need to apply the same constitutional principles that made us the greatest republic on the planet. Now, unfortunately, I think I disagree with my one colleague. Conservatives are equally as wrong. The Republican Party went down this road as well. Where were they fighting when we started Social Security, when back in the 30s and the 40s? And where were we during Johnson's 1966 Great Society? We spent $11 trillion on our poor. We have more percentage in poor today than we had in 1966. So what we need to do, oh, by the way, adding seats gives us more representation.